AC joints is another one we don't do too often, but you guys will see them at the offsites more. So if you get these at the offsites, they're a great elective to pick up if possible. AC joints will be two views, both AP, one with weights and one without weights, but I'll go through that. Your patient should have had shoulder and or clavicle projections completed prior to asking for AC joint views. So the separated shoulder can be a common injury among contact athletes. So your hockey players, your football players. It can happen to anyone who falls and lands sort of on the tip of their shoulder, but more often it's athletes. It can actually involve the muscles, tendons, and ligaments that hold the shoulder together. Our routine views is going to be an AP without weights, bilateral, so you want to visualize both sides without weights, and then both with weights. By weights, we use sandbags at our facility. Other facilities may have different options, but we use sandbags that they hold in their hands. Ideally, you fit both bilaterally on one image at 72 inches. If they're too big, they have too wide of a chest, if they're a big athlete, you're going to have to cut that into 4 images at 40 inches. Please do not photo time, because if you think of where your photo timing cells are, especially if you're doing bilateral images, it's nowhere near your AC joint. Always annotate your images. Annotate, remember, means to write on the images itself which one was the one with holding weights. Right? The AC joint method is also called the Pearson method. You're going to center to midpoint between the AC joints, so obviously, right, middle of the two AC joints, and 1 inch above the jugular notch. Ideally at 72 inches, and this lady that they have in the picture is slim and slender and not big shoulders. But if you think of most of your football players, right, they're going to have bigger shoulders. So she does fit into the 72 inch distance here, ideally. So this one is without weights. And then the second one, they put a little ticket here. It says weight bearing, but we'll just annotate that with our digital markers. She's holding weights in her hands, and ideally it should be at least 5 to 8 pounds in each hand. And I believe our sandbags are 5 pounds each. It comes down to technique decisions for AC joints, whether you're at 40 inches or 72 inches. If your patient's too big, you're going to move into 40 inches. You're going to have to do 4 cone down images. And what does that mean? You're going to have to do a AP of the right, no weights, AP of the left, no weights, AP of the right with weights, then AP of the left with weights, right? So instead of doing 2 images, you're just going to split it into 4. You can cone down. You'll use like an 8x10 cassette, but you'll cone in small to the AC joint. Really similar technique to clavicle or shoulder, because we're at 40 inches. If you have a small, slender, perfectly sized patient, and you're going to do it at 70 inches, you're going to use a 14-17 crosswise. 2 images, just open the 17 inches wide, cone top to bottom. And then you're going to have to use a higher technique because you're at 40 inches. Remember my trick for the inverse square law. When you're moving from 40 inches to 72 inches, you're going to multiply by 4. So if you would have used 10 mass at 40 inches and you're now at 72, you're simply going to go up to 40 mass. You can see on these images here that it says with weights and without weights. You want to make sure and identify that for your radiologist. You want both AC joints demonstrated, no motion. Make sure you have your correct right and left markers and close collimation. So this one down bottom here could definitely have used some more collimation. I think they're centered a little bit low, and that's why they have a lot of this chest on, but ideally it's a little bit less. Textbook-wise, the weights, they want them attached to the wrists, and it makes sense, right? If they're holding the weights, sometimes they try and hold the sandbags up. You want to instruct them to let their arms just drop and let the sandbags sort of pull their hands down towards their feet. We don't have these wrist straps at our clinical site, but maybe they do at the off-sites. But textbook-wise, they want them affixed to the wrist is the key term, I believe. And you can see in the demonstration here that this AC joint is now separated because he's holding the weights. This picture is a little alarming to me too. I'm not sure why he has humerus, but he doesn't have any forearm bones, but that's beside the point, friends. Supine position. If the patient is a trauma patient and they want to try and make this happen, a modification you can use, and you can see she's got it in her hand here, but this is a sheet that's down under her heels, and she's holding it in her hands, and then she's going to bend her knees up. And when she straightens her knees out, it'll pull her shoulders down and give you an AC joint picture. This is a shoulder separation. You see this big open space here, again, this big open space, and sometimes you can see it and it's an obvious deformity on the patient itself, so you might see that. There are different grades to the AC joint separation. Obviously, going from 1 to 3 gets more severe. Grade 1 is your mild, 2 is the more serious injury, and then 3 is the most severe, and the shoulder separation completely tears both your AC and CC ligaments, puts your shoulder joint noticeably out of position, and it's usually sticking kind of high up where this point is, and that's the one you can usually visualize. Ouch. Do me a favor, review your joints for the shoulder girl. This is a nice identification of SC joint versus AC joint. And then the glenoid cavity here, movement types, planar gliding. And that's the end.